In this tutorial, we're going to cover Adobe Illustrator Classroom in a Book, Chapter 9, which is all about organizing your work with layers. Let's go ahead and do a file open and grab that start file. Now, right now, I'm getting a note that says that I need to activate these files, so I'm going to go ahead and it says that they're available, so because I'm signed in, I'm going to say activate the fonts. And it's going to go through the process of going online and basically downloading those fonts and putting them together so I can use them in this, and Creative Cloud's telling me that they're activated, that we're good to go, so I can say close. So that's one of the first things we're going to do is do File, Save As, and L9, let's call it Real Estate App, and save. And save. So we're going to do quite a bit with layers in this one. So if you don't have your Windows layers, go to Window and Layers. And I would definitely dock it over here in your panel if you haven't already. So you're going to notice right now, if we look at our file, we have a layer with one layer with quite a few different things in it. We're actually going to play with a number of different things. So if we look at our Layers panel, we see things like here we have our layer color. So this one's blue, so anything in that layer is that same color of blue. We can also see whether or not it's visible. We can turn that on and off. We can determine whether or not there's other items within. There's art selected within there. So there's a lot of different items it's telling us within here. Down here at the bottom, we've got things like collect for export, make release clipping masks, things like locating objects, make sublayers, make new layers, throw away a layer. So of course there's a lot of different items available within these. So let's go ahead and create some new layers. So on this first layer that we've got called Layer 1, let's double click it and call it Phone Body. And hit enter and say OK. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse that so I can kind of see what's going on. Let's go ahead and go to the bottom, go to my post-it and say New Layer. And I'm going to name this new layer Phone Content. Oh, double click it and do that. Click in here, push escape so I can get out of that. Alright, now I'm viewing my perspective grid. I don't want to see that, so view. Let's see. Not hiding my. Here we go. Perspective high grid. There we go. This took me a second. Alright, so somehow I turned that on. So we've got phone content. So we've got our new layer, which is added directly above. If we do Alt and click New Layer, instead of having to double click to rename it, it'll open for us right away. So let's call this one Menu Icons. And say OK. Alright, let's go ahead. We can actually duplicate items. Let's go to the hamburger menu right here and duplicate menu icons. And instead of menu icons, let's go ahead and double click, call it Design Content. And hit enter. So we're going to actually be putting items into these different elements right here. So we've got our basic categories here. Now let's move some stuff around that we already have. So let's look at this one called Phone Content and click down. Within Phone Content, let's create a new layer. So we're going to go ahead and click on Phone Content, and we're going to create new sub-layer down here at the bottom. So think of it as like parent and child. So the parent, it lives within, the child pages live within the parent. It's kind of a web mentality. So let's go ahead and click New Sublayer. It's going to call it Layer 5. We're going to call it Main Menu. And say OK. Alright, so let's go ahead and hide that layer for now, so we can use those triangles. Let's go ahead, you can always make your layers wider and such by playing with your pull on your side, just as you can a lot of other things. So let's go ahead and play with how do we locate layers. With our selection tool, let's go ahead and locate this green right here. So we've got the green box. If we go up here to the bottom, we get the magnifying glass as locate object. So it's actually going to show us where within our document do we have this element. So we get that selection indicator. It turns blue for us. So let's go ahead and name this group description. Because we know that the more organized you are as a designer, the easier it is for you to find things later on. I'm going to go ahead and click out, deselect, do a Control S, and save what I've got so far. Let's go ahead and hide that description group with my disclosure. And let's go ahead and go to phone body, and I can hide that as well. So this is kind of a process of getting used to hiding things so you don't have a zillion layers open all the time. Let's grab our selection tool and grab this for sale section. And notice that phone body turns blue. So we get a little section right here that says, hey, what you're looking for is within this color. So we can drag that blue box without even opening anything up, and we can drag that up to design content. So it's going to drag those letters, those objects, up to design content. So now if we do the drop down, we can see that that group includes all of those elements that we had before. So instead of having to go and select and move things around, it makes it just a little bit easier. Alright, let's go ahead and you can see kind of phone body. And let's go to this one that says group right here under phone body. And let's do shift and let's grab all the way down to image. So we can grab multiple layers at once, and we're going to go ahead and move those as well. So they're going to go into the design content as well. So let's click and hold, drag them up into design content. So now all three of those elements that I had before that were in phone body are now part of design content. So it's relatively easy to work with layers, move things around, and it makes your life a lot easier as you're going along. So we know in Illustrator we can sometimes work with outlines. So let's go ahead and do view and flip to outline. So now we can see how these elements work and look just as the outlines. Notice that the eyeballs turn into, instead of having the little pupil part, they are missing the pupil part instead. So let's go back to view and switch it back to our GPU. So now we get our regular eyeballs back in. So let's go to our panels over here. Let's look at design content. And if you want to, you can just hit Alt click and just do outlines for certain parts of it. So let's go ahead and do a Control click. And you can see just the outlines for that one layer while you can still see everything else. So it allows you to have a lot more control as you are working around different things. So let's go ahead and let's do that Control click on that design content again, because now we can see that we have those menu items that we couldn't necessarily see before. Let's go ahead, grab our selection tool, grab one of those menus, and let's do our locate object. Within locate object, it's now going to show us, okay, here's that group that you have all those menu items within. So we want to go ahead and grab that group that has them all in there. Let's go edit and then cut. So now they're all gone, but we actually are going to put them back in place. Let's go up here into menu icons and let's go edit and paste in place. And so now we've got them all back and they're within that. Oh, we didn't get them in menu icons. I lied. We want to do edit, paste in place. And I did it wrong twice. So let's go ahead and grab that group and drag it into menu icons instead. Alright, so now we've got those where they need to be. So it just makes it easier as a designer to be aware of where you're putting all those different elements. So let's go ahead and grab our selection tool. Let's make sure we do our Control and click so we see our regular text again. Let's go to our design content layer. Let's make sure we can see everything in there. Let's grab our selection tool and grab this picture of the house. It's part of our real estate app, and drag it in. Now you'll notice that it's got the green outline. We're in that design content, so it's all in one thing. Let's go ahead and Alt click on the eye of the design icon, and notice how it's going to hide all of the other layers. So we are actually not having to see everything else going on at the same time. So let's go ahead and do an object. and arrange and ascend to back to make sure that our other information appears in front of that image. Let's go ahead and deselect all, and let's hide that layer content here for design content. So what we can also do is come up to our hamburger menu, and we can do show all layers. So it actually turns that all back on for us, so we don't have to go through that process of individually clicking all those eyeballs back on. Alright, let's go back to our design content layer, and let's shift click and grab the menu icons as well. And we're going to actually move that down into the phone content. So we're just going to click and drag and move it into the phone content. So now we've got those as sub-layers within the phone content section. So what else can we do? Maybe we want to streamline things. We can merge our layers. Let's go to our phone content and grab our path here, which is the little dot. And let's go ahead and grab a few other things as well. So let's alt-click that path so we actually select the path. And let's shift-click the one right above it so we get that path as well. And let's go to our hamburger menu. Come down to Collect in New Layer. So now I've got those two elements within that one layer in our regular stacking area. Let's go ahead and name that Front. And I can go ahead and deselect and get rid of that. And let's do a Control S to save. So now I can turn my front on and off, and I can see that I've got those two elements right now that are part of my front. So I can actually duplicate that layer content without having to redo everything. If I go ahead and take front, drag it all the way down to my new layer, and let go, it's going to make one called Front Copy. Let's go ahead and double click that and now call it Back. So instead of having to go through cut paste, I can actually just use my layers to do the job for me. So let's do a Control Save and do that. So let's go ahead and go to Window and grab the Align tools. So let's go to Phone Back and grab those. And we can actually use Phone Back to align things within a certain part of the property panel. So let's go ahead with Back selected. Let's go to Align, and let's make sure we grab the Align Horizontal Center. And you can tell if you move things kind of around a little bit, it will do different things. So let's go ahead and make sure we've got that selected. So make sure it's blue. Now hit Align Back. So notice how it's going to move around depending on what you have going on. Alright, so we've got that as far as that part goes. So let's go ahead and go to our Layers panel. Let's grab this one called Compound Path that's up here in Phone Body and drag it down here into the one called Front. So now our front has got Compound Path and those two buttons for the other as well. Let's go ahead and click outside and do a Control S and save what we've got so far. Let's go ahead and go to our File Open. And let's go grab the one that says menu.ai and open. And it's going to open up this menu that we've already got created. We can actually take these layers and move them into the other as well. So let's go ahead and look at the layers we've got here. Make sure that you can see all of them. If you alt-click, you can see them one at a time. You can kind of see what's going on within that menu. We don't need to worry about it too much. Let's go up here and do a Select All. And let's do an Edit Copy. Let's go ahead and come over to our Real Estate app. Let's go to our Real Estate app file. Let's go to our Layers. And let's make sure this Paste Remembers Layers section is checked. And then let's do an Edit Paste, which will actually keep this as its own section of layers, and we don't have to worry about it coming in the middle of some of the other layers that we are already working with. And let's go ahead and slide these into our phone content section. So I'm going to grab this, move it over here just a little bit, so you can kind of see those different layers and how they work together. So now let's go ahead, we can change the layer order. So you could do this all by hand. So I can go ahead and put all those down. And I need to go ahead and make sure I can see everything. So let's look in phone content. Within phone content, we've got quite a few different things going on. And let's go ahead and take a peek within main menu. Let's use our menu icons. So we can see we've got quite a few things here. And menu icons should be within main menu. So let's go ahead and slide those in. All right, so we've got main menu. We've got design contact, we've got a couple things of text. So what we can do is do design content. We can look at these other elements. We can shift click them. And if we want to, we can go here to our layers order and we can do reverse order. And it's actually going to change the way those are, because just like stacking order in Photoshop matters, stacking order in Illustrator also determines how things are going to work. Let's do Control S and see what we've got so far. So let's go ahead and see how you can apply some appearance attributes to certain layers. Let's look at the one outside this main menu. Let's click on just that one so we can see that it is selected, that that's what we're going to be playing with. So let's go over here to our Properties panel. And in our Properties panel, for opacity, let's go take it down to about 70%. And notice it's going to play with everything that's in that main menu section. So we can change everything at once. Let's go ahead and click out so we deselect everything. So now one other thing we can do is create a clipping mask. So when we create a clipping mask, so we would hide this extra stuff that's outside of these other elements. So let's go into our layers panel. Let's look at the one called phone body. And within phone body, we want to hide contents. So let's go ahead and hide contents. Let's go to this one called phone content, and we want to grab the one called path, which I'm not seeing. Do we hide it? I think I put it in somewhere else. I think we never moved it. Yep, here it is. We want to grab this one called path within phone body and move it up into phone content. So we want to have that above, because when we're clipping, we want to clip to what's down below. So we've got this one called path. And let's go ahead and we've got it selected. We're good to go. We can see it on the clipboard. So let's go ahead and Alt click it so we can see that we've got it selected. And let's go ahead and do a clipping mask. So we're going to come down here. We want to select that phone content layer right here at the top. And we want to grab this one called clipping mask and make clipping mask. And you notice now that that image is clipped, it's hidden underneath those other elements, which is exactly what we want it to do. So that is basically working with layers. There's a lot of things you can do, and get in the practice of working with layers, because it makes your life a lot easier as a designer. Make sure you do a Control S and save it, package it, and turn it in.